Everything's coming up to Timberwolves. Yeah. In the zone, simple dedication to the team when you're in the know. Timberwolves. Yeah. In the soul, lifting all the positivity for the wolves to grow. So, where we going from here, man? We listen week to week to get the clearest of clear. Recaps, got that. Soundcap, got that. Team ads, got that. So tell me what they do not have, huh? How dare you? Foolish question to ask, but I don't mean to go brag. But boy, they got all the stats, and they could go all the way back from KG to Zerbiak. And all I'm saying is that the cast a one-stop shop for my Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Ain't a thing falling, everything's coming up. Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Falling from the autumn, ain't nobody gonna stop them. It's the Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Phonies, you can spot them, they the sheep under their clothes. Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Talk a lot about them, y'all don't really know. Let's go.
Welcome in to another Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast. My name is Gabe Anderson, if you didn't get that from the intro. And I'm joined, as always, by Chris Emerson. Chris, how we doing?
We're doing good. A couple of weeks away from a nice trip into some warm weather, so I'm excited for that.
Oh, where are you going?
Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico? Oh, very nice. Very nice. And no Jared Good this week. Hope to have him back soon. But we're also joined by Blake for another week. Blake, how you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing good. Wish we were meeting under better circumstances, but I mean,
if this was 24 hours earlier, it'd be a different story.
It really would. It really would. Man, what an interesting thing that transpired between the two games with the Rockets. Because at home, you're feeling good. Ant scores 44 points. He's got some highlight dunks, which I do want to put in the intro. I didn't have time. Which one in the intro? Which one would you rather? Would you have the two-hand slam or the one-hand slam? Which one do you think would be better?
I like the D'Lo alley-oop, but I don't know, depending on trade deadline, how well that'll go long term.
Oh, you like the alley-oop the best?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there's 3 or 4 of them, I remember.
Yeah, for sure. Looks like we're having some technical difficulty. Oh, you're back? Okay. Which dunk would you rather have in the intro, Chris? Oh, looks like we're having some technical difficulties with Chris. Hopefully he'll be back soon. But let's just keep going this way. So what do you think's been the main problem, particularly in the Rockets game? I got a few ideas, but man, what do you think's going on? Like what didn't work last night?
If you got ideas, go first. I watched most of it, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, I honestly think I just think it's the role players not stepping up. I mean, when you have your guy Slow-Mo, who doesn't score a single point, in fact, was negatively affected with a technical, and that's really all he did. I think he's got 2 points in the last 2 games, and you got Jalen Noel turning over the ball time after time again. Naz Reid not playing up to his caliber, and that just adds all up to a loss. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say Jaden and Slow-Mo. I think they've had pretty good seasons. I mean, Slow-Mo had a triple-double a few weeks ago. So they're not bad players, but Slow-Mo definitely adds a level of just high basketball IQ that really shapes, I think, some of the game plan. And Jaden does a lot of the dirty work on the defense. He might have some corner threes every now and then, which might be a little more flashy. But players like that, I think, are kind of unsung heroes a little bit. And when you miss them, you really miss them. And they're not getting those Ant dunks that go on the highlight reel, but you can see where they're missed quickly when they don't show up for a couple of games.
Right, and it looks like we got Chris back, which is always good. So, Chris, we're going to talking about the lack of help from the bench, and particularly, really not particularly last night and the last 2 games in general. Slow-Mo Jalen Noel's been terrible. Not like you've been saying, Nas is losing a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean it's tough when you have, Rudy in and out of the lineup with injury. You've got Cat out of the lineup. You've got a number 2 point guard, which is a huge role. Like that's something that's been kind of overlooked is McLaughlin.
Yeah.
Like he was a spark. Like he might have almost been our 6th man, 7th man, kind of really changed the outlook of the game type player. He's been gone. And then when the bench, bench guys are bench guys for a reason, and that just pushes those guys even further and further back.
Right.
So it's getting pretty ugly. And what do? Like Slow-Mo was probably our best player for like 2 or 3, 4 games, and the last 2 games, has 2 points on 1 for 10 shooting, 3 turnovers and 8 fouls in the last 2 games.
And a T.
And a T. And then, then we've got Prince, who I just saw where with Prince, we are 12-3 in the last 15 games Prince has played. And without Prince this season, we're 4-13. And I don't think he's exactly like LeBron James or anything, but when you're so thin, having just an NBA quality player goes a long ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would tend to agree. And if you think about it, if just one, I mean, we had that game. I mean, we only lost by 5. We cut it to basically, I think we tied it in the 4th quarter. If just one player steps up, if Jaden hits another 3, if Slow-Mo hits a shot, if Jalen Noel cuts down on a turnover, I mean, we had that game. There's a reason that the Rockets have lost 13 in a row, and it's that they're not a good team. And yes, Jalen Green went off on us, but even with that, we were right there in the end too. So if just one thing goes right, I think we have that game. And even he ended up with a good stat line, but he was reckless a lot of the time in the first half, in my opinion. Like he was just going to the basket with no real with no real goal. Well, obviously he was trying to score, but man, he thinks are you either of you getting annoyed by the yell that he makes, or do you think he's actually getting fouled? I don't know, because it's every time. What do you think, Chris?
I mean, that isn't needed. Hat, but I don't know. It gets old.
Yeah, Blake, what do you think?
Yeah, I haven't heard like to me, Cat is kind of an annoyance with it. He's very, very loud about it. And specifically, I haven't paid attention as much. Maybe it's just a bias I have or something. I'll have to listen more for it. He does put his head down and just go to the rim a lot, and that's when fouls happen. But I haven't watched close enough there to know if it's legit or not.
Yeah, it is hard to know, but it's just every single time Ants go in the basket, he goes, "Hey!" I swear, every single time.
Sure.
Unless it's a wide open dunk, he's yelling or saying something.
It might be one of those things that once I start listening for it, I'm going to start hearing it every time or something, where it was out of my mind or something before.
You will.
It's like
sure. Next game.
It's like when Tom Thibodeau used to yell on the sideline. Once you hear it, you can't unhear it. Oh,
it's just his bark. You love it.
Yeah, I couldn't stand that. That was so annoying. Anyway, so moving forward, here's what's kind of interesting for the Wolves is they have an opportunity to really turn some heads because their schedule is not favorable going forward. I mean, because they got the Pelicans tomorrow, although no Zion, thank God, because we know what Zion did last time to us. Got the Grizzlies, even though we beat them last time, that's always a tough matchup there where they are for a reason. 2 against the Kings, who have been turning a lot of heads. I think they're the 3 seed right now. Warriors are no pushover, and then you got the Magic. I mean, where is this team going to be in 5 games? Like
After that, you have back-to-back Nuggets.
and then Nuggets back to back. I mean, Chris, like where is this team going to be? Like, how do we go from losing to a team that's lost 13 in a row and then turn around and like beat Memphis? Like how? Like,
Well, I mean, that would be you're making an assumption that we're a consistent team and we have consistent play. We could beat any one of those teams, like Finch said, and we can lose to all of them. We're just not. I mean, it's understandable. We've thrown so many pieces together, and then some of our biggest pieces are out. So who really knows what we are? I think we're just almost just playing pickup game right now. I think this season is starting to get to be one of those things where you just kind of take a couple big things from it, some big improvement from maybe Anthony Edwards, maybe improved shooting from McDaniels, and you just kind of move forward and hope you're healthy for next year because, I mean, it's getting to the point where I don't think Karl Anthony Towns is going to play this year. And what are we doing? You know, we're not really moving in any direction.
so would you sell at the trade deadline?
If anyone's looking to buy, I mean, like I would sell Edwards, but I mean, if someone's looking to buy D'Angelo Russell for a good price, sure. Same as anybody, really.
Now, I'm kind of in a different boat than you, though. I think, first of all, and maybe it's just because I'm a traditional Wolves fan and I don't want to give up on a season, particularly after we've gone so far. And I mean, we're right in the thick of things. There's no reason to give up at this point, considering how close the Western Conference is. But I will say these losses, like against the Spurs and against who else? We lost to the Hornets this year. Detroit. I mean, those losses at the end are going to hurt. But what about you, Blake? Would you sell at the trade deadline? Is it time to just pack it up and try again next year, or what do you think?
I'm on the mostly not sell bandwagon. I mean, if Naz is playing well and somebody gives you a good deal for him, I would consider it. If somebody really wants D'Lo for whatever reason, I would consider it. I would not mind getting Jalen Noel out of here because I think he's going to want a bigger contract that's not going to be as deserved as some other players that need more money. Like I said, there's like 2 teams pulling. It's like the Nuggets and the Grizzlies are pulling away from everybody else. And with 30 games or whatever, 40 games, whatever we have left, everybody is so on top of each other. It's the Nuggets and the Grizz at the top, the Spurs and the Rockets at the bottom. And 3 through 13 is just a crapshoot at the moment. So to me, this season has just it's gonna come and go, feeling like we're in purgatory, and I'm just confused about it. Of like, are we a winning team? Are we a losing team? I've had a tough time making heads and tails of any of it.
I think that's an exactly perfect assessment of the year. There's no way to really assess it. It's tough. The one thing that I'm bringing out of this year so far is Anthony Edwards is going to be our alpha moving forward. And Finch is pushing that on him. He's calling a lot of plays for him, and he's put responsibility on him. Fourth quarter now, he's guarding the other team's best perimeter player. He's starting to push these leadership roles on Ant. And I think it's a good thing. I think that's something we're going to have to build around. I just wish I knew the value of some of those players. Like if you told me Naz Reid is going to get me a 2nd round pick, well, we might as well hold on to him.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we've needed like damn near 2 G League centers just to fill a roster right now. So, I mean, we're hurting. And if you told me D'Lo, all I'm going to get back is, some expiring contract, I would keep him too. Why not run off the season with it? But it's just a hard thing to do. I really wish we had Karl Anthony Towns back because I at least want to know if there's viability to this plan or not.
I agree with that 100%. I'm so at a loss of, like, I expected it to be more than 4 to 6 weeks, but that's a pretty big chunk of the season. And that once you start getting to trade deadline and All-Star break and all that, you're like, well, are we in this? And if we are in this race, do we have a flow going? And is this gonna? I mean, you don't want to assume Cat's gonna mess up the flow of things, being a max, your 1A, 1B player, whatever. But like that would throw a wrench in the game plan to an extent if you're getting hot. To say, okay, now let's throw you in, see how you do. But at the same time, you kind of have to.
I guess luckily we're not here.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, at this rate, it's just we're in the thick enough to say, Cat, go in, see how you do, go wild. But yeah, it's a rock and a hard place a little bit. It feels like.
And to answer this question from the chat, who the fuck knows? When is Cat going to be back? Like, I don't know. I don't think he knows. I don't think anyone in the organization knows.
I mean, they're definitely not going to. They're definitely not going to bring him back early. You know, they're going to make sure he's 100, 200%. So, I mean, I guess it comes back to hopefully he'll play the last 20 games. That's about another 3 weeks out, probably.
That's half the season.
Yeah, for sure. And at that point, you hope in those 20 games, something sticks, something vibes well. There's a big thing to just moving the rotation guys down. Like, instead of starting Slow-Mo and playing them 30 minutes, you know, now he's going to play, 20 minutes or 15. And instead of maybe Noel playing 20 minutes a game, maybe he'll play 6 and it'll just be like a punch off the bench. Sometimes that's enough to make a real change. But I mean, it's getting to the point where I don't know what we're going to do, like it's just kind of lost.
Yeah, that would be nice to have one move where you're taking the depth chart and you're saying, okay, you've done okay as a starter, but now we're going down instead of farming up. Which, I mean, can work sometimes, but for immediate help, I would rather just build from the top down.
Yeah.
So my question is, what is going on with Naz Reid? Because, I mean, so I'm just looking at the last 3 games. Obviously, he didn't play too much last night. 9 minutes, 2 points, 1 block. Rockets, and he's made some dumbass turnovers too. Like, and I talked to my dad a lot about it. He's so freaking out of control some of the time. Like, he's just flailing around, going at people, and that's why, even though I made a video a year ago saying that I think Naz can be our starting center, I don't think so anymore. I don't think he's consistent enough. I don't think he's good enough on defense. And people complain about Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert had a hell of a game last night. 15 points. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I know.
He did. No, okay, yeah.
People want to complain about Rudy Gobert just because that's what the flock is doing. So, I mean, a guy goes, 15, 16, and 4 blocks, misses like 2 shots, and he's the villain for the game. I just don't get it.
Yeah, last night's game, I put on 2 people. It's 3 people. Naz Reid, Jalen Noel, and who was the other one? Who else was I complaining
Jalen
about?
Green?
No, not Jalen Green. On our own team, Slow-Mo.
Shit.
Because I don't know, you got to have some production off the bench. And
yeah.
I feel like it should be a rule. Any game that D'Lo and Ant, both go for 30,
Right.
and it's not like the game against the Bulls, like a 150-point game, we should win that game 100% of the time.
Yes.
All right, here's an interesting question. Maybe we should BHH. Rudy has great numbers, but does he impact winning? Well, he won on the Jazz a lot.
I mean, they were the number 1 seed for multiple years, going into the playoffs. They've always been like a top 5 seed, and they didn't have that great of a roster. I saw somebody say the other day, well, they had so many hustle players around Rudy. And I was like who? Like Bogdanovich? Like, they didn't have a great roster. Yeah, Rudy does impact winning. I would say I would say Rudy impacts winning more than his numbers show, is almost what I would say, because there's so many picks that he sets. Like D'Lo right now is number one, I think, in guards finishing at the rim. He's number two in guards at mid-range jumpers. He's shooting his career best at three-point shooting. Those aren't flukes. It's because when he plays with Rudy, Rudy gets him open shots. These are things you don't see. Like
Right.
Rudy's always on the perimeter, setting picks, resetting picks, getting guys open, getting guys good looks. I don't know. I don't want to get into a Rudy thing, but
We can.
I don't think he's the problem. Like, I think it's easy to point a fingers at the new guy, but I don't think he's the problem. I said earlier today, McDaniels was supposed to be this star. He was set to get $20 to $25 million this offseason. He's averaging 3 rebounds a game. He's averaging 11, 3, 2, 1, and 1. I get it. He's a good defender. I understand that. But in the modern NBA, you can just screen a guy off. Watch Jalen Green's highlights from last night. He scored 44 on us or whatever. Very rarely was McDaniels in front of him. He was almost trailing him all the time because they run him off screens. You can take a guy off a defender or a defender off an offensive player pretty easily.
Right.
He needs to play better.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, and he even on defense, he's in foul trouble half the time, so he can't keep him on the court. And that's why I kind of say with Naz Reid too, they're both out of control. Also, I feel like Jaden at times shows that he's still a kid, which he is, because, like, for example, there was that one play where he got pushed. He definitely got pushed. But then right in front of the ref, he decides to push the other guy, and it's like a clear foul, and that's like his 4th foul.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Blake, what do you think?
I don't get it.
On the Jaden McDaniels front, that's a good point I was thinking about bringing up today. So, with his fouls, so I think he's overall been a pretty good defender. I think one area he deserves praise is he tries to keep plays alive more than I think most other players do. I think a ball goes, it gets shot, we miss. Everyone else just flocks to the other side of the court. I think he often tries to run for it, tries to steal it away, whatever. In terms of his fouls, though, I was kind of going to ask you guys that exact question. He is like the 5th. He I think has had the 5th or 6th most fouls. Like, he's fouled people the 5th or 6th most in the NBA this year so far. And my question is, do you think it's a lot of young player mistakes? Do you think it's just general bad defense? Or do you think it is he gets put up against a lot of like the star players more? Do you think they get some sort of star treatment, or is that an excuse? Some combination?
Chris, go ahead. You go first.
Yeah, I would say it's a combination of that last thing. I think he gets his hand caught in the cookie jar a little bit. He's a young player, and he has no respect with the refs. The refs don't give him a good whistle for sure. They give him a lot of ticky-tack stuff. And yeah, he's going up bars, but a lot of his fouls are like not on the shot or not on the actual like scoring action. It's on silly stuff, like in the middle of the play, like grab holding a little bit. Stuff that most vet players get away with, even bad vet players get away with. So I don't know. I would say if he's 5th in fouls, though, that's improvement from last year. I think he was 3rd, maybe just behind Cat, who is 2nd or something like that.
Yeah, I think he doesn't have full control of his body yet. Like, he's got those long arms, and I don't think maybe he got away with like poking away balls and stuff like that at Washington, where he went to college. But I don't think he's has full control, because he gets these reach in and dumb fouls and stuff like that. And what good is a star defender if you can't keep him on the court? No, zero help whatsoever. And
especially if that's all he's giving you.
Yeah, exactly.
He gives you corner threes.
I know.
Not when we need it.
To the point of 1 or 2 a game. And hey, I'll take it. But like, again, last night we had 30 and 30 from our backcourt. Rudy Gobert goes for 15 and 15 with 4 blocks. So it's 3 guys that are pulling their weight. So there's 2 guys left. Like, do something.
Yeah. when you were having some connection at the beginning, Gabe and I touched on this a little bit, that Slow-Mo and Jaden were kind of the tough ones, I think, the last few games. And I think Jaden has sort of that, he's supposed to be kind of that gritty Vanderbilt. That's what they want him to be this year. And when he's not doing it, it's tough. And then Slow-Mo with his high basketball IQ, when you're like, those guys are doing kind of the unsung hero play I said like 20 minutes ago. And when you're not seeing that, it shows up. It's one of those when I think it's happening, it's like, this is great. It's kind of just a nice to have, it seems, even though it's more than that. But when you're missing it, you're really missing it.
Yeah,
I think with
I would.
some of it is the Rockets are like team elite athletes. That's their whole roster. And Slow-Mo is the opposite of that, you know, and sometimes that cerebral game can really take advantage of some of those athletes. And sometimes those athletes will just overpower you. And I think maybe that's what happened with Slow-Mo. I'm not ready to, you know, cut bait on him or anything, but
No.
he needs to invest more. Like, we need more impact from players. Like, that's just what it is. But again, if you've got Karl Anthony Towns, you've got Taurean Prince, and you've got McLaughlin out, those are three impactful players. So that hurts.
And you saw it last night with, I mean, like Chris Finch trying everything. He threw Matt Ryan out there for a stint, like just trying to get, and he hit a three, like trying to get something going, and just he couldn't get anything going. I like I said all year, I thought the coaching and the decisions Chris Finch has made have been pretty good, but man, I don't know. There's almost so much you can do when Jalen Noel is turning over the ball and Naz Reid is out of control and Jaden McDaniels has 5 fouls. So who are you going to put in? And Prince is out and
half your team's hurt.
Half your team's hurt. Yeah. Like what can you do? What can you do? And those people calling for Chris. Yeah, I guess Josh Minot, but he's in Iowa right now. But yeah. The people calling for Chris Finch's head, honestly, like, get the fuck out of here. Like,
don't even pay attention to them. Those are the easiest thing to do in sports is to blame the coach or to cheer on the backup, saying the backup needs more time. No matter what sport it is, it's always the coach's fault and the backup's better than the starter. Like, that's so old. Whenever anyone brings something like that, I try to ignore it to my best ability.
So I want to bring up this. You were talking about this earlier, and what do you think Naz Reid's trade value is? Like, the problem is he's not in a big contract, so it's not like we can go get we can do a lot. But we'll start with you, Blake. What can we get for not like a Naz Reid?
Yeah, I would say I would start with saying I don't know, and it's for that exact reason. If he has a small $1 or $2 million contract, I think if you paired him with Taurean Prince to get up to $10 million, you might be able to get something decent. But being expiring at with $1 million, I just don't know if there's anything there that's worth it by himself. I'm really not sure. I've heard like the man out of LA or the Bones Highland or those sort of things.
They wouldn't do that.
Yeah, feel free to speculate on any of that stuff, but I just don't know.
I would say 2 seconds.
And that's coming from the guy that doesn't think anything of picks either.
Right. Well, no, I love picks. I love picks, but there's like late first round picks have almost the same value as second round picks. Like the 26th ranked guy and the 35th ranked guy really aren't that far apart. One's got a 4-year guaranteed contract, and one guy you get for about $1 million a year. So give me that second. I mean, it would come down to what teams are looking for him. Like, let's say the Nets. Let's say the Nets are done with. Like, here's a crazy trade. Done with Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons has stuff going on with him right now that is very interesting. Like, you'll see many games where he'll have 0 shots taken or 1 or 2 shots taken. And he's on like 3-year deal with, left and big money. So what if you went D'Lo and Naz for, Ben's or something like that, or Ben, I would say, or what if it was like Gobert and Nas or something like that for Ben Simmons and a wing, or D'Lo and Nas if they want to try to sign him, because they have not much at the big position. So, I mean, you'd have to pair Nas with somebody, and you're
Yeah,
gonna
that's the
have to,
thing.
you're gonna have to target somebody who's also playing bad, or somebody who is on a contract that the other team doesn't want, which means that, you're not getting great value either way.
I know we kind of talked about this last time, but what about Kuzma? I mean, maybe? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
it would have to be D'Lo. I mean, it would have to be
Yeah.
big money going that way, because
Right.
he's making 15 or something like that. So, I mean, it gets hard. It gets hard to make this money match. Yeah, Jared piped in. Put that on there. I put that on there earlier.
The Kuzma thing, I think the Wizards are going to prioritize him now that they traded with the Lake Show yesterday.
Yeah, I did hear they want to re-sign him. So yeah.
Noel, D'Lo, and Nas for Simmons, and I think I had T.J. Warren on there. So
I love
mean,
T.J. Warren.
That gives the Nets two guys in Nas and Noel that they could re-sign at a low price that can give you some young, maybe some spark, and then you've got D'Lo to kind of help stem the tide, give you some offensive punch, and you can move on from Ben Simmons if that's not your guy. And now we've got help at the rebounding position with Ben. And I just hope that, he gets his head straight and he's willing to take it to the hoop. I mean, he averaged like 17 a game, shooting, league high field goal percentage for multiple years. Like, he wasn't, stroking it like Curry, but he was scoring efficiently. Like, that's all I care about. So I don't know with him, but I mean, that would be a gamble. Like, we're at a point now with D'Lo and those guys that we might have to take a crazy gamble and hope it works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And that also, you got to keep into account the offseason potential move of Cat potentially. Although I think his trade value is pretty low right now, but we'll have to see. Now there was a report, and we'll start with you, Blake. Do you buy into, and this might have been just complete bullshit, but I did see a report that potentially they were looking to move on from Gobert at the trade deadline. I don't believe that, but what would you think of a move like that? Are you ready for him to jump ship already?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say jump ship because being traded twice, Gobert doesn't have as much choice in the matter. But would I be okay with the Gobert trade in a vacuum? Yes, but you are not going to get. You're getting pennies on the dollar, basically, and you're not going to get the value back that you gave out. And for that, I would be very hard pressed to trade Gobert at this rate. I don't want to just sit and be like, we'll be in purgatory forever, but you're not getting 5 picks back, and every player was a decent player in that trade except for Leandro Bolmaro, basically. Like, every one of those was a decent asset, and you're not getting that for Gobert. So my guess is of what happened was some team called up the Wolves. They said, hey, would you be willing to trade Gobert? And the Wolves said, what are you thinking? And they talked and nothing happened. And the second that phone call ended, the other team alerted the press and was like, Wolves are considering it because they said, what are you thinking? Like, that's how much I would read into that.
Chris, what do you think? I know you're a big Gobert guy, so.
Well, I'm just a big, we don't even know what we have yet guy. Like,
right, yeah.
I mean, I don't even know. Like, the idea is to go Gobert and Cat, and I can't punt on that until I've seen it. That was from Mark Stein, and it was from a fake Mark Stein thing. It's completely false. Someone made it up and put a fake Mark Stein on it, so it's total BS. But for fun, we could kick it around and say, I mean, I would have to know what the package is. I'll move anybody. I would move Anthony Edwards. You just have to blow me away with a trade package. Like, I think GMs that have like guys that are untradeable, I think that's a sign of a bad GM because nobody should be untradeable. It just matters like, well, what are you going to give me? Like some guys are just super valuable. I think moving on from a guy like Gobert, who has kind of like Ricky Rubio vibes to me, where things, like I said earlier, his value doesn't always show up in the box score. I think without actually getting a full off season, a full plan scheduled around how your offense is going to look, getting your point guard, your two guard accustomed to actually passing it to a large post man, without really getting a sniff of what this is going to look like, I think it would be foolish to move on from it, because it's not very often that you have two all NBA players in the front court, and a former all-star at point guard and a soon-to-be all-star at shooting guard, all relatively in their prime. I mean, there is an upside to that is unbelievable. So I think to cut bait on it early would be foolish.
Here's the thing. Here's a question I want to ask both of you, and answer it as honestly as you can. If Cat never gets hurt, what do you think our record looks like right now? What do you think, Chris? 4 seed, really?
Why not? We're 2 games away from it now, and we've played absolutely terrible.
Chris, Blake, what do you think?
Yeah, I would want to put us in that 3-4, basically the top of the middle. And really, we're 24 and 25. The Pelicans are 26 and 21 at 4. Like that's hardly a jump when you consider he should be one of our top 2 players.
Right.
Yeah. The Pelicans have 2 more wins than us at 4th, and at 3rd, Sacramento has 3 more wins than us. I mean, there's definitely some games played that are a little sketchy with that, but I don't think it would be completely out of hand to say that Karl-Anthony Towns just being a talent boost would help us beat Charlotte, the 2 games in Detroit, and one of these Houston games at the very least. So that's 4 games. We're right in it right now. I mean, that's with 4 games. So
Utah,
I mean, we should be right
Utah
there.
game.
I mean, it would be, I don't think it would be asking a lot to say we'd be looking at home court advantage in the playoffs.
I mean, think about some of the other games. I mean, that Pelicans game, that's a 1-point game.
There's tons of them.
That Jazz game, that's a 1-point game. Who knows?
So in terms of a few things here, I will say I think in terms of Gobert not showing up on the stat sheet, I thought I saw a metric recently that showed like NBA centers and how likely other teams are to drive to the basket. And like,
I've got it.
Yeah, and Gobert, it basically the data said that teams are less likely to drive to the basket with Gobert in the paint because they're worried about him blocking you, just coming down you, whatever. And I think whether or not it's a perfect fit or anything with Cat on the offense, that keeps teams very honest. If you just put Karl out there and he's on the 3-point line, teams aren't going to be able to double ant. They're not going to be able to bog down Gobert as much. They're going to have one much larger worry to weigh their options between. And I think that Cat has good stats anyway, but that would be one additional thing to think about there.
100%. Gabe, I just sent you that graphic. If you see it.
Yeah. I'm uploading it, so keep talking.
Yeah. So, I mean, what it comes down to is there's really only 2 players that are in his realm, and it's Draymond Green and Gobert. And the cross sections are opponents attack the rim less often, and Gobert is just below Draymond Green on that. And then if you take it the other way, it's opponents score at the rim less. So they definitely score at the rim way less when Gobert's there, and they don't even attack it more. Like, those are the things that you don't see. Like, guys just literally don't go there. But hey, doesn't show up in the stats, you know. I mean, we got to see what we have before we move on. Like, I get it. The Minnesota Timberwolves as an organization has been a dominant organization for decades, and we're used to winning at a super high level. So I understand why the fans so quick to punt when you get a Hall of Fame player, halfway through the year. I get it. I understand. But maybe we should just see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's going to be an interesting run going forward, and hey, maybe we can make some noise. Maybe if we beat some of these, I mean, I was talking about how good the Pelicans are, but they've been struggling lately. They just lost to the Magic. I think they've lost 4 of 5. Also, I looked at it. The Pelicans are going to be on a back-to-back.
Nice.
So they play the Nuggets tonight, and then they got us.
Grizzlies got beat by 30 last night by Sacramento.
Yeah, and also I feel like Ant comes. Not that he doesn't come to play, but I always feel like versus the Grizzlies, it kind of feels like a rivalry. So I feel like people are going to come to play. Slow-Mo's going to be motivated to get out of whatever funk that he's in, particularly against a team like Memphis. And who knows? Maybe next week we win 3 in a row, and Cat can't come back quick enough because we're the 6th seed. Like that. That's how quick it could change. Like that's the thing. That's the thing. That's what's been so blessed about this about these the standings right now. It's so close. Like there's no reason to quit. Like even if you remember last year when the Kings, and we talked about this, the Sabonis trade, the Kings. The Kings were not even in the 10 seed, and they were still competing to try to make the playoffs. And they went out and got Sabonis. And look at where it's put them right now. They're great right now. They've been awesome. So
and they're playing together. Like that's what's great is they play as a team.
Absolutely, Blake. Go ahead.
One quick thing on the schedule here. I feel like at the beginning of the year, and maybe it's just people want to look at fans want to look at what's right in front of them and what they can take away right away. We had a very, very easy schedule at the beginning of the year that we did not exactly do a great job with. And we should have gotten more easy wins there. But to me, and some people this is a very important stretch of the schedule just because it's easy wins to rack up. Sure. To me, this might be the most important area of the entire season we have coming up, just because we need to show that we can play at this level. And every one of these 9 out of 12 or 10 out of 12 of our next games are, if we get a win, it takes somebody in front of us down a peg, basically. And there's you should win every game and you should beat bad teams just because they're bad, and you should beat good teams because they're good. But it's almost all West Conference teams. It's all good West Conference teams that are within the realm of where we are. This is when they need to show up, I think.
And we illustrated, 2 or 3 wins away from 4 or 5 seeds higher. So yeah, every one of those wins could move you up multiple seeds.
Absolutely. Yeah. Plus, I mean, look at some of the teams and I know they're not the Pelicans. They're without. And other teams should have excuses as well, as much as we're making excuses. The Pelicans, they're without Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson right now. The Suns are without Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton's in and out of the lineup, and CP3's in and out of the lineup right now.
The Suns, I think, have had more injury trouble than anybody.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. And, I mean, those are 2 teams right there. And, man, if you just got to win some games, really, is what we got to do, and then see what happens from there.
And what's crazy is at the end of that little run that you're talking about, that's the trade deadline. So these next 2 weeks not only are super important with wins and losses, but we'll find out in 2 weeks if D'Angelo Russell's on the team next year or not. Because if he doesn't sign an extension, he's not on the team next year. There's no way we can sign him because he's not a restricted agent. He's just a regular free agent. We won't have the money. So it's going to be very interesting these next 2 weeks.
Do you think he will be a free agent? He's actually been playing pretty decent in the last few games.
He's been great.
He's been playing great. I mean, he's been shooting the lights out. I saw Dane Moore just post recently that he's basically the best guard in the NBA. Not shooting guard as in the position, but as an actual shooter. I don't have the don't have it up right in front of me, but it was something like he's in the 99th percentile in damn near every shot category that you can be having right now. Here it is. Over the last 35 games, D'Angelo Russell is shooting 78% at the rim, best among point guards in that time. He's shooting 56% on long mid-range shots, second among point guards, and 41% on threes, which is seventh among point guards. I mean, you basically got the best shooting point guard in the NBA. Like, the problem is where's that value? You know, like, is that 30 mil? Is that 25 mil? Is that 20 mil? Like, that's the $1 million question.
I'd give him 2025. I think he's going to ask for 30. And I mean, the frustrating thing to me is, like, contract year, like, I was expecting D'Lo to kind of show up all year for this. And I think he had kind of a little bit of a rockier start. And then it got into, like, will he get traded? What's his value? And just in the last few weeks, he's like, okay, I'll show you my value. And he's just like Randy Mossed it a little bit, where it's like, yeah, I'll show you I can play because I can all the time. And for somebody that's that inconsistent, just be like, it's the perfect time for him to go on a hot streak. And I don't know if it's coincidental.
It shouldn't be.
Right.
I'm not saying he doesn't try, but it feels a little bit like he's putting a little extra in right now. And that's not bad.
And it's kind of tied up with Anthony Edwards being more of a play creator. So it's moving D'Lo a little bit more off the ball, which was the original plan that Rosas had, having him and Rubio there. It have D'Lo kind of be 50% on, 50% off ball. So it's possible that the plan is actually starting to finally come together, and Anthony Edwards has developed to more of a play creator or more of a play initiator, and that's unlocking D'Lo a little bit, along with Rudy Gobert's screens, which leave him wide in the mid-range and finishing at the rim because, you know, Rudy's getting doubled on the roll. So, yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's going to be a crazy 2 weeks, and I don't know what's going to happen. I want to see D'Lo on this roster long-term, and then part of me doesn't want to see him for, you know, either. So I don't know. I'm excited to see what happens.
I said it the last weeks. I want to see him stay just because I don't think the alternatives are better, and he's 26.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
he's not like a 34-year-old. Can he still do it? Like, he should be entering his prime.
Yep.
You know who I'd love to go get? I'll wrap it up with this. If we can get him like a second round pick for him or something. How about Eric Gordon off the bench? Shoot some
Sure.
three. Why not? Why not?
For cheap, I'll take him. Yeah.
I every time we play the Rockets, I'm like, he's still there.
He's the last one of that not dynasty because they didn't win, but that super team that was PJ Tucker and Harden and all those guys. They all blew it up except Eric Gordon and a bunch of kids now.
Yeah, I hope he likes mentoring because I don't know. Anyway,
because that's his job.
Yeah. Maybe he's just like going into coach mode at this point. Anyway, I think we'll wrap it up there. Blake, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And Chris, thanks as always.
Yeah, let's get some wins to shut down the glass half empty fans for a while.
Absolutely. And this is the Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode on YouTube, and give us a 5-star review on Spotify. And as always,